Oh,
Hello.
hello.
Hi. Howdy do.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one watching this. Hello, no one watching this. Wait a minute. Let's see. Is there anybody in there? There's nobody in chat. Oh, yeah, there's a couple people. There's
Yeah.
a couple people hanging out. Hey, go ahead and say something in chat so we know we're not talking just to ourselves.
You're talking to
Can
me,
you hear me?
Dan.
I'm talking to you. What are we talking about? Hi.
Hi.
Yay. People are in chat.
Woo.
What are we talking about?
We're
What are
talking
we
about
doing?
comics, man.
Let's talk about
Let's
comics.
talk
You
about
said
comics.
that there was a lot of good comics this week.
Man, so this is maybe the biggest week of the year for me personally.
For you personally.
There's like a lot of the stuff that's in my poll that we'll quickly just kind of go through, but I don't want to dwell on. But then there's a couple of new stuff coming out tomorrow that I think looks pretty interesting that we'll talk about in a little bit more detail. But you know, I always like to start. What do I always like to start with, Dan?
Facsimile?
I like to start with facsimiles.
Boom.
And this is a very, very special facsimile.
It's so
This
big it
is
won't fit.
it's so big it won't fit in the camera. Look at that, it's shaking the whole thing. This
Is that where Batman finds Robin sleeping on the job and he's upset about it?
Yeah. Robin's always been a bit of a layabout,
Robin, wake up!
a loafer. This is a reprinting of. I don't know if DC called them this. This is definitely a limited collector's edition, but they in the 70s they would do reprints in this giant.
Time to lean, you got time to clean.
Yeah, that's right.
Is it for limited collectors, as in there's just not very many collectors?
So
or is the edition itself limited
the
for
the edition itself is limited. So in the 70s, that's when comic book collecting became a thing. Like comic books were always published for a long time and people bought them and read them, but it wasn't until the 70s that the companies realized that like people were collecting them, and that's when everybody realized that these kind of had like resale value. Like prior to that, they were
The
just
secondary
garbage.
market didn't exist.
Exactly, yeah. And then
Man,
it
what a
started
time to be alive.
for real. Like I don't even want to think about it. Like people just like buying copies of
and
Amazing
tossing
Fantasy
them out.
15 and throwing them away.
Yeah,
like
this is trash. No, I read
yeah,
it.
exactly. I read it. It's garbage. And then in the 70s, they realized, oh, people are actually saving these and spending a lot of money to buy old issues. So then they started leaning into that, and this was one of the things. They would reprint some classic issues, but in this gigantic, oversized format. Marvel called them the Treasury editions, and I really like these because you get to see the art at a much larger scale, and again, it's like it's so big you can't even. Yeah, there we go. You can't even really see it all in frame here, but they're really nice. And this one is actually really cool. This is a reprint of 3 classic issues by Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams about Ra's al Ghul. You can kind of see him there. And I'm excited to kind of see this because I actually have an original copy of this. So this is the original 1971 version, and it's like I can't even properly like compare them on stream here because they're both just so big.
Let's see what we can do a little bit.
We zoom out a little bit.
Zoom out.
Yeah, let's see what happens. Look at that. Oh yeah, I mean that's better. Yeah. But I'm happy to say like other than the cover looks noticeably different. Like the image is printed like it looks like in the original one it was zoomed in a little bit. Like it's difficult to see, but. Like Robin's kind of cut off on the bottom, whereas on the new one it's like the full image.
Yeah, his hand's cut off like right around here.
Yeah, you can kind of see that, and it does look like the cover was recolored. Like there's some like modern coloring on it.
He's like Robin.
But the interiors, it looks like it's if it's not the original coloring, it's like pretty close to it. Like this looks a lot like how the original comic. I mean, I'm not going to find the exact page, but you can just kind of see. Other than like, and it's on clear white paper. So yeah, it looks really good.
Is this the initial color of the paper, or is this because
this is because it's 50 years old,
okay,
and so this is just what happens to. So like a lot of people, they like older comics and they think they like newsprint because it looks off white. No. When it was first printed, it was white like this. It's just after 50 years, it turns yellow.
Yeah.
Because of the type of paper that they use.
That's yellow.
Yeah, exactly. So it's pretty cool that they keep doing these like new reprints of things like this. I really love, like I said, I love these giant collections. They're fun to read. You can really appreciate the art at that scale, and usually they're really good comics because like that's why they're reprinting them because they're good stuff. So I don't know. It's just good stuff.
It's good. It's just good stuff.
It's just good stuff. Also, one thing I can't help but notice, if you want to put the camera back down here,
Yeah, I do.
the original one, 1971, $2 in 1971 dollars,
Oh,
which
man.
was a lot in
Yeah,
1971, and the new one, $15. I feel like that's actually pretty comparable though
You
for
think?
price.
Due to
Yeah,
inflation?
exactly. Inflation has hurt
Well, I
comics
get you,
bad. But yeah, I mean $2. This at this time, let's see, 1971, comics would have been a quarter. Like like a regular size
okay.
comic
Yeah,
would have
yeah,
been a
yeah,
quarter, or like about a quarter. So yeah, it's I mean, like you think of like a standard comic today is $5. So 15. This is like basically just the price of 3 comics, which is what it is.
Totally worth it though.
Yeah. Yeah, $15 is perfectly reasonable. It's exactly what you would pay for 3
It is not
issues.
reasonable. for maybe for a giant-sized comic book like this one.
It's probably like more reasonable. Honestly, it's probably more reasonable than $2 in 1971. Like, I mean, like I said, if you think about it in terms of
That was like rent.
like three Batman comics today will cost you $15.
Yeah.
3 Batman comics in 1971 would be 75 cents,
Yeah, so that's
not $2.
overcosted.
Right.
That was overcost.
Exactly. Anyway, so we got more facsimiles.
Says it should be
It
1505.
should be 15. There you go. So that's right on. So I don't remember how much I talked about this the last time I talked about a Spider-Man facsimile, but I'm assuming similarly to how Marvel is reprinting all of the Secret Wars
Is
books.
this another facsimile?
This is another facsimile. This is
Holy crap.
this is Amazing Spider-Man
They're going nuts
254.
with these facsimiles. Is
They-
this like
it's-
when you redo a TV show because you can't think of a new thing?
Kind of like when a show gets like really popular in
Yeah.
reruns. I mean, so comic books have kind of lived on reprints for a long time. Like we just talked about that facsimile itself was a reprint of classic issues, and Marvel in order to respond to the collector's market that had popped up in the 70s, they started reprinting all of their old stuff. So they've been basically, it's only in the last maybe 10 years has been that they haven't really been printing reprints of single issues because they've been so focused on trade paperbacks.
Yeah.
But now with comic book collecting kind of becoming ever more increasingly just a niche collectible item, I think they're realizing that people that collect comics want to have single issues, not necessarily trade paperbacks.
Yeah.
So I appreciate
a cool benchmark sort of
exactly. Yeah.
Issues. Yeah. Gotcha.
And so these are issues. Again, like you can find these in the back issue bins. I don't think you'll break the bank getting them, but they're going to be more than like a cover price comic just because these are the issues where Spider-Man has the alien symbiote suit. And I believe it is 40th. It was 40 years ago, so maybe they're just doing this as a 40-year anniversary. They're printing all because it was 7 issues that he had the alien symbiote. And so I think it's pretty cool that they're just printing just those, like just the straight run.
Well,
like it started with
who's that guy with the
252.
pumpkin head?
Oh, that's Jack-o'-lantern.
Oh, man, he's pretty
He's like a Green Goblin. He's a knockoff of the Hobgoblin, who was a knockoff of the Green Goblin. I mean, essentially, not totally, but yeah. But yeah, I think it's really cool. Like they're reprinting the Secret Wars comics. Oh my gosh. Ignored. Yeah, they're reprinting the Secret Wars comics because it's the 40th anniversary of Secret Wars, and rather than like I'm somebody who's never really read Secret Wars, but I just the collected editions, the trade paperbacks are out there, but I just never bought it to read it. But now they're putting out these issues, and I'm like, I could just read an issue a month and kind of read it the way it was originally meant to.
Yeah.
Serialized. So I'm kind of just all in on that. I'm a sucker for that type of collecting of classic comics. So yeah, I'm really happy to see these Spider-Man books as well. And we got one more facsimile, Wolverine #1. Now this is not to be confused with the other Wolverine #1 facsimile that came out several months ago. That was the first issue of the miniseries Wolverine, which was the first time he had a solo book, and then it relaunched with a new #1 as an ongoing series several years later. So I guess it's not really technically a relaunch. But this also sort of ties into that other Wolverine series that It's called Madripoor Nights, which actually the new issue of that came out this week, and we'll talk about it when we get to it.
Last time.
Yeah, so it relates to two classic comics. They did a facsimile of Uncanny X-Men 268, which is like what the new Wolverine series is a direct sequel to. And then also the setting it's a period in Wolverine's continuity when he was incognito under the alias Patch, and he would wear an eye patch. And
Incognitus.
it was basically like he was like doing the James Bond thing, and all of his adventures took place on this like island in the Philippines called Madripoor, which is a fake island, but it's essentially just like a pirate.
I can't go there.
Pirate hideout. I mean, you can go to like Taiwan. I think that's basically what it was. But yeah, so that's out. If you haven't gotten a copy of Wolverine, it's another classic one. Written by Chris Claremont, art by John Buscema. Really, really good stuff. Okay, done with facsimiles.
No more facsimiles.
No more facsimiles, but I do still have a reprint. The collected edition, Volume 5 of Astro City. Now, I am on record as saying that this might be one of my favorite superhero comics. Certainly one of the best. Astro City is one of the best superhero comics ever made.
I don't remember us talking about it.
We've talked about the collected edition every time it comes out. It started in the 90s, so it's an old series. But I do believe it has.
Saying the 90s was a long time ago.
I am not saying that. I think that this series actually has a timeless quality because each issue is just follows a different character in the setting of Astro City, which is just essentially like in this world like version of New York. Yeah, just where all the like a metropolis. Yeah, it's called Astro City.
Gotham.
Exactly, like a fake.
Yeah, I know some stuff.
Yeah, you get it. And it's such a great. It really truly is epic because all the stories follow decades of one story will just be set in the 60s and then another story set in the 90s and about how the characters will have their continuity relates to each other, and you'll see legacy versions of characters, like a character that was active in early 1980s and then he disappeared and then he's popped up again in 1995 and is he a different character? Is he somebody else taking on the name? It's really, really good stuff. It's written by Kurt Busiek, who I think is one of the best straight superhero writers. He's a really smart, thoughtful guy. He's not necessarily trying to deconstruct the genre, which I think is what a lot of people that came after him tried to do, following the footsteps of Alan Moore with something like The Watchmen, where it's everything has to be a commentary on the genre, and he's not doing that. It's just he's just telling good stories, and I don't think you you can just really, really enjoy it for the great storytelling and getting immersed into the world, and you don't have to feel like you're supposed to be getting something more out of it.
Yeah.
But I think you do because it's so ingrained. A lot of it really does draw from Marvel and DC Comics history, both their characters and in the industry.
Think about how this reminded me of The Watchmen.
Yeah, I mean, there's similarities to it. The Watchmen was a direct, not a satire, but all the characters were one-for-one representations of the
something that was out there.
Charlton Comics specifically. So DC had bought this comic book company called Charlton. And their superhero line had characters like the Blue Beetle, Peacemaker, the most famous one now. So
saw that show.
Yeah. I watched I guess there is only one season. Yeah, we watched it.
I think so, yeah.
Season 2 is coming soon, but yeah, it was. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. That's my hot take. Yeah. But yeah, I love Astro City. I have not read Volume 5 yet. This is actually past where the issues that I have, so I'm really, really looking forward to reading it.
So you gotta catch up.
I gotta catch up, exactly. It's been in consistently. I don't want to say consistently published. It's been published off and on since it started in 93, 94, or 5, maybe somewhere in there. And it has. I mean, it's been going because the most recent issue I think was published in 2022, I think, and there's going to be more coming. So good stuff. It's probably the thing I'm most excited to read this week. And this is in a week when most of my pull has come out.
Right.
It's
a good week for you.
It's a good week for me. Yeah, I'm geeking out over here.
He's geeked and geeking it.
You remember we talked about issue 1 of this series, If You Find This, I'm Already Dead.
Yep.
This is by St. Louis hometown hero Matt Kint, and
Good old
I
Matt.
really love this comic. This comic is so cool. It's about a war journalist who's trapped on an alien planet. It's not specifically a planet. I think it's like a subspace type of deal, but essentially
Alternate
like an
universe
yeah,
situation?
like an alien kind of completely alien thing, and she's having to survive, and the whole thing is narrated through her journal entries, where like that's where the title comes from. If you read
the
this,
past. It's
I'm
already
already
happened.
dead. Yeah, exactly. And so it's like the art is not by Matt Kint. The art is by Dan McDade, and I really, really like it. Just cool book. I like the muted colors a lot. Yeah, really, really great book. It's a little graphic, but you know, it's like a sci-fi, not really horror, but there's a suspense element, like a little bit of a horror element, because like you don't know where she's going with the story. Does she survive? Like you don't.
Yeah.
I like that. I really like the journalist setting of it, where it's like you don't know if she's living. Like if she was just narrating this like a normal, like just normal first person narration, a lot of times it's it just you know they're gonna live because they're telling you about it.
Right.
But this one is presented in such a way where you don't know
Maybe
like
at the
if
end
she gets
she's-
out of it.
Yeah, she's dead about
Yeah. So really good book. This again, highly
What's a
recommend.
twist?
Highly recommend this series. One of my favorites of the week. Another one I've been following. I've been really happy with this. Army of Darkness Forever by Tony Fleeks and artist Justin Greenwood. I know you're a big fan of Army of Darkness, Evil Dead, Dan.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I really like this comic a lot.
I'm a big fan, but
really
yeah, I like
well.
it.
Why- How are
I
you
like
not?
it.
How are you not a big fan? I don't know. Army of Darkness was one of those movies for me that kind of. I watched it as a teenager, and so it was very, very, very formative. Like, and
yeah.
I don't want to say it like changed my life in
You
a
created
way,
a core
but
memory watching it when you were a teenager.
exactly. And even I don't remember if I said this on the stream. It was so weird because I was at school. I actually read a comic book that made a bunch of overt references to Army of Darkness, and in the comic it was like you should watch this movie, Army of Darkness. And I was like, what is that? Like I had no idea what it was. And then I was at school and somebody was telling me, they're like, oh yeah, that movie. And they were just explaining the whole movie to me. And I'm like, this sounds amazing.
It's the best movie ever
And then
made.
like that night, I'm watching the Sci-Fi Channel, I believe. Or maybe it was like TNT or something, some cable channel.
Sure.
And
it was
like
on.
it just came on, like a movie started, because I just had, you're a teenager, you just had the TV on.
Yeah.
And I was like, this looks like it could be that movie. And I instinctively, showing my age here, I had a TV VCR combo. And I
you started recording.
always kept blank tapes in it, like for whenever like an episode of The
Wow.
Simpsons would come on, or like South Park, and I would just like record them so I could rewatch them later. We didn't have streaming or DVDs or anything, and so I just instinctively, like I saw the scene opens with him like in the stocks and he's like marching, and before the like opening credits even started, I was just like, wow, this is like exactly how he described the opening. So I hit record really quick, and then the title came on. I'm like, oh my god, it is it. So
This is happening.
it was so exciting
really
for me
happening.
because I got to see the movie that it was literally just
Yeah.
like suddenly discovering, and it was such a weird, surreal moment. And so yes, I love Army of Darkness and Evil Dead 2, which I actually think is a better movie.
Right.
But it doesn't have like I then discovered Evil Dead 2 from the
you had
Army
to
of
go
Darkness.
back, yeah.
But so this comic is great. It's like the perfect blend of Army of Darkness and Evil Dead, because I do think they're kind of two distinct styles of like the same kind of characters and story. And this comic, as I said every time we talk about it, it just does such a great job of mixing the two different endings from Army of Darkness, because there was the theatrical ending where he just ends up in the present day and he's working at S-Mart and he kills a witch, and then there's the original ending, which was cut because they thought it was too weird and nobody would like it, where he travels too far into the future. He ends up in like a post-apocalyptic world where he's like the only last surviving human. And so this comic does both of those endings, and it like finds a way to kind of blend them together. Really, really good. And
Looks like an ice cream sandwich.
it, you know what? It does look like an ice cream sandwich. I
I
wouldn't.
just wanted to say that.
I wouldn't want to
really
eat.
nothing else to contribute, but that it looks like an ice cream sandwich. So, consider my contribution done.
You know what?
Spoilers for a future movie night.
Right, exactly. I never considered that the Necronomicon would look like an ice cream sandwich,
It
but
did on that cover.
now it really does. Like
Looks
the
delicious.
pages are they're just like so white. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
like
yeah, like
normally the pages are like the same color as the cover
I
because
think
it's
they're
all
missing out on a great opportunity here to make Necronomicon ice cream sandwiches.
Necronomicon nom 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 nom. I don't know what you can do with that, but yes, here we go.
Here we go.
Beneath the trees where
Talking
nobody
Animals,
sees.
your favorite.
I do like a good talking animal
You love a
comic.
talking animal.
This has been a really hot comic, and it's really good.
The most evil ice cream sandwich, not lactose intolerant. You.
Right. This comic has just been consistently great, and I think I only say that because, like, if you recall, Dan, I know you don't have. Yeah, I know that you have the memory of a goldfish, but
My memory is terrible. That's the truth.
we talked about the first issue when it came out, I guess 4 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I really liked it, but I was also like maybe a little skeptical because the premise seems pretty straightforward. It's just Dexter, but with like cute animals and good style. And I have to say, like, despite that, I sound like a little dismissive. Like, Dexter already did it, you know. I love this comic. Like, it's all in the execution. So, like, you can say, like, it's Dexter meets whatever kids, like Wind in the Willows, I think maybe they said.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Like, it's Dexter meets kids characters. And it's like
little bear.
Yeah, exactly. I hate that that type of like PR. Like, it's so necessary to try and sell something. But I think that this comic is really great, and it is absolutely in the execution. Like, you really like the creator, whose name I can't remember, Patrick Hovarth, does such a great job of like depicting this small town. You really get to know all of the characters, like a little bit, all through the eyes of the main character, and he does a great job of making her kind of like this sympathetic character that you're rooting for, but also, you know, she's a serial killer, which is like was also kind of Dexter's thing. Like, you know, he's this sympathetic main character, but also a killer.
Yeah.
This comic looks great. It's beautiful. The story is fantastic. I would not be disappointed if we could see more after this initial story, and I wouldn't be surprised if we do, because as I understand it, it's been very successful. They've gone back for multiple printings of every issue, so I'm always happy to see that.
Blowing up.
All right,
hey.
we got a whole strip of comics here that I'm not gonna talk about too much. I just want to say I love GI Joe.
Like
you know that I like GI Joe. This cover is just pretty great.
He's looking pretty BA.
He's looking. That is the Cobra Commander that I remember.
His cape.
Yeah, big old boots too. But yeah, I got Springfield. Do you remember I don't think Springfield was in the cartoon that much. That was something directly from the comics.
Missouri?
Springfield
Illinois?
was. I don't remember if they
Where
actually.
Simpsons live?
I don't remember if they said where it was, but Springfield was the fake town that they created, where all of the like Cobra troopers and their families lived, and it was like it looked like normal small town. You know, USA, any town USA, but then like the secret was that they were all Cobra operatives, and it was all.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was great, and it was like all just a front for, you know, you got a whole like militia of terrorists. They gotta live somewhere, you know. Yeah. So it was cool. Like, one thing I just want to say, I do think that this regular GI Joe series is kind of overshadowed by all of the hype coming off the Transformers and the Duke and the Cobra Commander, but the artist on this, Chris Mooneyham, he is doing great work. Like, this is a really, really great looking comic. I really like it. So I've been enjoying this one quite a bit. I wasn't really sure if I would go all in on it. Like, even I am a classic G.I. Joe fan. Like, this is a direct continuation of the comics that I read in the 80s and 90s. And yeah, it's really good looking. It's cool. It's fun. On the subject of G.I. Joe, Cobra Commander is also still going.
Cobra Commander.
I had her toy as a kid, and that is you don't know who that is? You remember Zartan, of course.
Yeah.
And the Dreadnoughts.
He changed color.
So that's
put water on.
That's his sister, Zarana, I believe. And I really liked that character. I can't remember what her gimmick was, because like the some of the Dreadnought characters had like a toy gimmick. Like
Yeah, they would change color.
she had a brother that like could change color if you
Yeah.
like left him in the sun.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I forget
yeah.
if she had something like that or
I
not.
like a toy gimmick.
You know what? I'm a sucker for
That's,
it.
I mean, it's
you know?
awesome. Oh,
Yeah.
you put hot water on this dude, change his color? Sweet.
Yeah.
Count me in.
Or like the He-Man toy that like just stunk.
Yeah.
Like it was this gimmick.
Stinkor.
Stinkor. He stinks.
Yeah. Or the suction guy. He has suction cups.
Yeah.
Pretty sweet.
But this comic is great. I think it's maybe a little bit more violent than both the Transformers and the Duke comic, but that also feels appropriate because the Dreadnoks are like crazy, like psycho bikers.
They're like Australian,
like
right?
Australian Florida mix, like trailer trash,
Wowzers.
like Florida swamp people. So yeah, it's this comic is cool. Like this.
So they can't get his helmet off?
Yeah, that's like the whole thing.
That's
in
the
this.
whole.
That's what's going on in this. They're trying to get his helmet off, and they're like want to torture him and stuff. Well, you know, he comes from the underground advanced civilization of Cobra La, so it's got like their
Nice support
advanced
systems.
Yeah. Also, he's I haven't read this entire issue yet, but I won't be surprised if we learn that he's appropriated some Transformers technology into his helmet. Because remember, from the first issue, the big reveal was that he had Megatron chained up, and yeah.
He reverse engineered Megatron.
Right, yeah, that's what he was working on. Man,
Why wouldn't you?
such a cool comic. Like it really is like I've said
It's really
before.
getting you going.
it's like so tailored to me and my taste, you know.
You specifically.
So it's like it's there's a lot of like I'll recommend Beneath the Trees where nobody sees to anybody, like provided you really like, you know, appreciate the kind of horror serial killer genre. I'll recommend a lot of stuff I think is good for everybody. G.I. Joe, like
for only the true fans.
It's for only the
believers.
I think. Well, I mean, I said it. Like, I think you can really, really enjoy it, just like not knowing or caring anything about GI Joe, because they're really fun, well written, action packed, just kind of like super spy action, like over the top action movies kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, if you are a GI Joe fan, it's gonna hit you in such a specific way.
Oh, sure.
You know, like
That's
that.
what I've always wanted that life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to describe that feeling. Like
I get it.
I respect and understand you might not have that feeling. So it's like, but also it's really, really good. Another comic that I'm really excited about, Dutch.
Another G.I. Joe.
Yeah, it's kind of a
Energon Universe situation, right?
Well, no, you're thinking of Duke.
Dutch he's a different guy that also has big guns.
Exactly.
He's
well,
not Cable.
He's not Cable, exactly. He's one of the many not Cable characters that came out in the 90s. But this has been a really fun comic. I like Joe Casey a lot when he's allowed to just kind of let loose and just, I don't want to say go crazy. That sounds too reductive, but like it's just a cool comic about a 90s tough guy cyborg superhero who's being pulled out of retirement to go on like one last adventure, it's I like this art a lot. Like it would have been really easy for them to do this comic and just hire somebody that did 90s style, like hire somebody that does like a Rob Liefeld style, because there's lots of those guys out there. But I appreciate that they didn't go in that direction, and that it's more of I would say it's more of a modern image style, so it kind of bridges the gap where there's obviously a lot of ties to 90s image. Like this definitely appeals to people that grew up with that, like the character, those types of characters, but it doesn't feel like it's a retro book on purpose. It doesn't feel like it's a throwback where they're just playing all the greatest hits of 90s comics. Like it still has a modern sensibility to it, which I think is what makes it work so well for me.
The old and new.
Yeah, exactly. So really, really good stuff if you're into that type of
Dutch action.
Little Dutch action.
Yeah,
and like we said, I think I pointed this out. I like that this logo is made up of all different parts of different Image Comics logos. So that's like from Savage Dragon and Youngblood and Cyberforce and Shadowhawk, I believe. Yeah, exactly. Very much so.
James Bond.
James Bond.
I heard of that guy.
You know what? I really, really love this comic. Like I'm a fan of Garth Ennis, the writer. I don't love everything he's written because like I think I've heard it described, and I have to agree with this, that he is a writer who really, really benefits from an editor that can like rein him in and tell him no, like
control
yeah,
your urges.
exactly, yeah, because like some of the stuff where he's just like cuts loose, like I was just saying, I love it when Joe Casey cuts loose.
Yeah.
When Garth Ennis cuts loose,
It's
too much. It goes way out there. But when you have somebody that can kind of like guide him, or at least you have the ability to say no,
pull the ideas together.
It works really well. And this James Bond comic is just really cool. It's like classic James Bond. James Bond is kind of this like this no nonsense tough guy, like more like scars on him, like more like he is in the book as opposed to the movies where he's the super handsome movie star type of character. Like I always hated that. Like he's like a spy, but literally everybody knows what he looks like.
And knows who he is.
Yeah. Oh, you're the famous spy.
And he tells people his
and
name.
He tells me his name all the time. Yeah.
That's me, James Bond.
Yeah.
Super spy.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe ahoy to me.
right. Yeah, but yeah, this book has been great. It's one of the best. Well, I mean that's not fair for me. I was gonna say it's like one of the best James Bond comics I've read in a long time. But I think it actually might be the only James Bond comic I've read. Oh. I just like haven't read.
Well, it's the best.
It is the best. Yeah, that's what makes early Archer so good. Yeah, I'm sure they have a lot of fun with that. They play with. It's been so long since I watched Archer. I can't really comment. But that sounds like something that Archer would do.
Yeah.
Moving on, Wolverine, Madripoor Nights.
Hey, we were talking about this earlier.
That's what I was talking about earlier.
We're back, baby.
This is another one of those comics that's like I feel like it's for me. I don't know if it's for anybody else. It's a sequel to my favorite era of Uncanny X-Men. It's written by Chris Claremont, who's almost kind of a divisive writer at this point. Like he's the very like pinnacle of old-fashioned writer guy, where like a lot of people like if you don't like reading 80s or earlier comics, you probably don't like Chris Claremont, and you wish he wasn't working on the X-Men anymore, but he still kind of writes for them every now and then.
Yeah.
And I don't think the stuff that he writes these days is as good as his heyday. That's how I'll put it.
No, man.
But I'm still kind of a sucker for it, and I mean, we got classic brown costume Wolverine here.
Brown costume,
like
that's
the good one. But yeah, so if you like Wolverine, there's no shortage of Wolverine comics out there. In fact, there's probably too many Wolverine comics. Like they just, I know, if you can believe it. Like Wolverine is
what a thing to say.
He's a little overexposed.
What a thing
like,
to say about
like
on the comic book street.
There are periods where in like Marvel Comics publishing history where there have been not just Wolverine appearing in multiple books. There have been multiple versions of Wolverine appearing in multiple books. Like you just can't get enough Wolverine.
People love Wolverine.
Yeah. There's a comic out right now. I don't remember if we talked about it last week or the other week. That it's literally like a multiverse Wolverine story where there's 5 different Wolverines teaming up.
Not talk about
okay. Maybe we'll talk about issue 2 when that one comes out.
Take a look at that.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous, but also I feel like they kind of lean into the premise a little bit, which I appreciated. Because, like, I don't know about you. I probably didn't talk about it because I'm just so sick of multiverse stuff, you know? I just, like...
Multiverse it's like time travel.
Yeah.
There's no rules. You just do whatever
exactly,
you want.
Right, yeah.
Nothing matters.
Right, and they're trying to tell a big story where, like, you have to have a bunch of different Wolverines teaming up, and I'm just like, I just based on the premise, I don't want to read it. I'd much rather read something that's...
Oh, no, Wolverine died. Well, we're going to this other universe. We'll get another Wolverine. Oh, okay, so
exactly.
Stakes are low. Yeah, cool.
Exactly,
Kill all
yeah.
of them. There's thousands of universes.
Right, exactly, yeah. I'd much rather read something like this, which is like not the greatest comic book in the world, but it feels more like the classic Wolverine should feel to me because it's written by Chris Claremont.
Anchored in reality.
Yeah, well, yes, exactly, yeah. yeah, exactly. Like we can... You said it. I'm moving on. Yeah, I don't want to dwell on it. Superman coming out. I love Superman. This series has been great. Joshua Williamson, who also is writing the Cobra Commander and Duke series, he's just been killing it on this Superman. I love the way these books look. The artist, I think there's been a few different artists working on the series, but this one is there we go. David Baldion
Baldion.
and Norm Rapmund.
Rapmund.
I'm not familiar with them, but like it's a good looking comic. I like the colors a lot too, especially like I guess colorist Rex Locus doing really good work. Superman should be bright, and so I like that this
Yeah.
is like bright colors in this. This has just been a good book. It just feels like classic Superman. So if you like, like fun high adventure Superman, I
He's
really
gotta save
really
Lex
recommend this.
Luthor.
Yeah, like that's so like
with
this
that.
the setup for this series has been like Luthor's in jail, and so he did like a thing where he like left all of his company to Superman. And he's trying to rebrand it as like Superman Company,
Yeah.
and Superman's like, "I'm not working with you, Lex
Yeah, I don't
Luthor."
want your
And
company.
he's like, Lex is like, "Well, too bad, it's yours, And I left you all my assistants; they're going to help you." And so there's like this. I like it's a really good Lex Luthor
Interesting.
where he's like playing mind games because there are other villains. The ongoing story is that there are these really really dangerous villains that hate Lex Luthor because you don't get to be a billionaire without making a bunch of enemies,
Super enemies.
and so they're trying to kill Lex Luthor. So Lex is like, well, if Superman's working with me, he has to save
He'll
me.
protect me,
He'll protect me, even though he's in jail. So that's like part of it too. It's just been really really good.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Another Superman Batman book that I'm really enjoying, World's Finest.
Batman with Superman.
We've talked about this, I think, every month that it comes out. I can't believe it's on issue 25. This is the oversized 25th issue.
Oh.
And so lots of stuff going on here, like classic Lex Luthor there.
Classic Luthor.
Yeah. Really, really good book. I haven't read this issue yet, but it has the Joker in it. And, just classic, the purple and green, like Lex Luthor costume. Like, that's the costume he wore when he stole all those pies. That's a deep cut for all you meme lovers.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so deep I don't even know.
But another notable thing about this issue, and this is something you will know, one of the things they've been doing with World's Finest is that not every issue, but most of the issues, they do a variant cover that's like the celebrity variant. And is somebody jumping around back there?
I mean, maybe.
Maybe. So they do. World's Finest does these celebrity variants where, like, they had like Jerry Seinfeld on a cover. And it was
Okay.
like it's just like it's.
Yeah.
I appreciate
I
that.
think comics. I think Seinfeld.
Well, like so. I mean, would you believe they also did a Jack White cover? Jack Black would actually make
No.
more sense,
I mean, I feel like Jack White kind of makes sense too.
just because
Just 'cause he seems like he would have his hands.
he's
in
like a
the crowd.
weirdo.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, so they do these variants with just celebrities on them, just for fun, and I think it's just to like treat the book like with this sense of prestige of like it's World's Finest, it's the best characters
Yeah.
by the best creators.
Superman. Yeah.
Well, no, I was about to say Jerry Seinfeld actually does make sense because he's obsessed with. I don't know how to say he's obsessed, but he loves Superman. Superman appeared in many episodes of Seinfeld. If you recall, like in the late '90s, he did those commercials for, was it a credit card company? But it was Jerry and Superman was animated and he was voiced by Patrick Warburton.
Oh, I remember
and
that.
it was just like Jerry and
Yeah, well, now I
Superman
gotta look
talking.
that up.
Look them up;
Yeah,
they're
now I gotta
great.
look that up.
I mean,
Okay.
Patrick Warburton. Like
He's great.
he's so
He's always
amazing,
great
but
in
like he
everything
really
he does.
does do like a perfect Superman. But anyway, so what I'm getting at is this issue has its celebrity variant cover. You want to? Boom! Who's that? You
That's,
recognize that guy
Kirk.
there? Yeah, the new team captain. The only thing I don't like about these comics is that you see these covers and you might like if you weren't aware that they're just gimmicky
Yeah.
variants, you might think like, oh wow, Captain Kirk is in this issue
Yeah.
of because that's not out of the ordinary. They've
They're doing
made
something
Star
with
Trek
Star Trek.
comics,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they've made crossovers with Star Trek and Justice League and
Yeah,
things. So,
Shatner.
but yeah, no, this is the William Shatner variant. So good
Right
for
on.
him. I mean, just the fact that he's like still out there
Somehow
kicking.
trying to be relevant.
Well, that's a different that's a different thing. I'm just surprised that he's still alive. That to me is relevant. It makes him relevant enough.
Pretty-
Like,
I mean,
what
Star
is he
Trek.
like 108 years old?
Pretty old. He's in his 80s.
Yeah,
Late 80s, I think.
yeah. Got to be pushing 90. But
Gotta be
yeah,
pushing it.
so that's pretty neat. I'm still gonna stick to my regular A covers on this.
That's
I
'cause
haven't.
you hate variant.
Well, I don't know if you're aware of this, Dan. Like my particular I don't know. You might 92. Wow, is
Oh, okay.
Shatner's
yeah.
92? There you go. Whew.
Hey, he's
Man,
doing all right.
you think he's gonna make it to 100? I
Trying to
think he
start
will.
conflict. No, I'm just saying. He just doesn't like variant covers. And we
So
know
I
this.
have a
It's not new knowledge.
I have a particular collector's quirk where I have to go all in on something that is thematically consistent. So if I buy the variant covers, I have to buy all the variant covers.
You gotta get that Jack White.
Exactly, and I'm not doing that. But like, so if I buy the A covers, the whole series, the rest of it has to be the A covers. Like I can't mix and match.
Wow.
I've done it before when circumstances demanded it, but I don't like doing it. So
These are the words of a crazy person.
I'm just saying, it's like that's just it's a collector's quirk. It's the same
we
way.
all got our things, you know.
If I buy like a trade paperback of the volume 1 of a book, I can't then jump into the issues. I have to keep them all as trade paperbacks. I can't like mix and match.
You got to
them.
wait for the other book
So
to get
yeah,
to trade.
even though I would be perfectly happy, you don't have to. It's just part of collecting, Dan. I don't know what else to tell you.
I understand. Maybe not that bad, but
all right.
This looks pretty good.
So we got some other new stuff coming out. You know what? I saw this in the solicits.
In this issue.
In apes. Exactly.
I mean, they tell you right on the cover what to expect.
You know exactly what you're getting with this comic. You are getting a whole bunch of apes. So one of my favorite things about DC Comics, especially the Silver Age DC, which is the 60s, and also the Bronze Age 70s, that early period, well, it's not really early because DC was around in the 40s. I'm already getting, this whole thing is going off the rails.
Yeah.
What I love specifically about that period of DC Comics was they were really silly because they were fully aware that they were making comics for kids.
Yeah.
And so one of the common kind of like
Monkey Nomicon.
The Monkey Nomicon, yeah, there you go.
Oh my gosh.
Tying into our Evil Dead Army of Darkness.
I love it. I'm here for it. Sign me up.
So one of my favorite things about DC Comics is that they've accumulated all of these different ape characters over the years because there was a period in the 60s and 70s when like DC discovered that comic book covers with apes on them sold really well. like really well, like higher than they're just like, why are all these comics selling good? Oh, they have apes on the cover. So they would just start making covers with apes on them, and it would be a thing where they would like have an artist design a cover, and then have an ape on it, and then they'd give it to like an artist and be like, come up with a story for this scenario. Make up the ape character. So there's like all these ape characters in DC Comics, like talking apes, robot apes, giant apes, and so this is just a one shot, just kind of celebrating all the ape characters. So there's like Beppo, the super ape, Detective Chimp. So there's a bunch of different monkey characters as well, and that's sort of a cause of conflict.
Apes,
Well, I mean, they make jokes about it in the story of like people not being able to tell the difference between monkeys and apes. And there's Titano, the giant ape, the Ultra Humanite. Mala, the French revolutionary ape, obviously, yeah. And it's just there's Sam Simeon,
Chapter
detective.
1, monkey business.
This contains 3 different stories in it. The biggest one is Plan of the Apes.
Wow.
It's written by John Layman and drawn by Carl Mostert. And I kind of really, really liked it. There's a lot of ape and monkey puns, of course, and monkey
obviously.
business.
I mean, you gotta have it.
Yeah, you gotta. But it's a lot of fun. It's just Detective Chimp is investigating this case of missing monkeys, and turns out there's a bunch of ape villains involved, and they get into a fight. They solve the mystery. It's pretty funny. You got Beppo, the super ape, punching the Ultra Humanite's exposed brain. It's ridiculous.
Wow.
It's apes. It's a DC
apes.
ape comic. There's a second story here that is it's drawn by Phil Hester, who is actually one of my favorite artists. He's a really good artist, and it's a more serious toned story about Detective Chimp, where he's hitchhiking and somebody who just committed a murder picks up Detective Chimp, and it's like kind of this psychological thriller where this guy's like having a breakdown where he's like, why is this talking monkey here? Like, does he know what I did? It's really good. And there is a third story about Monkey Prince, who is the character I'm least familiar with because he's a new character. But again, he all of this does surprisingly, I was surprised. So it has three stories,
Yeah.
2 shorter ones in the back, but they do relate kind of to the first story. So it all does actually kind of flow together. Like they're not directly related, but like they make reference to the story. So I just like this idea that there's this growing canon of ape and monkey characters.
Monkey heroes, yeah.
And then to really put the bow on the whole thing is that I appreciate they reprint some of the
Nice. Those are
classic
cool.
ape covers, which is just you look at these and you're like, these are just like great classic
amazing.
comics. Yeah, I'm innocent, I tell you, innocent, featuring the amazing trial of
John
John Gorilla
Gorilla
Doe. Just and this was a thing where somebody just came up with this cover of like a gorilla on trial who's found guilty and he protests his innocence, and they drew it up and then they're like, make that into a story.
I mean, that's the story writes itself.
Right,
honestly.
yeah. So this was a really fun comic. I'm usually wishy-washy when it comes to like one-shots like this because a lot of times, well, I don't want to say a lot of times, but sometimes it can be just an excuse to publish just kind of like old mediocre stuff that's been lying in a drawer that you didn't you maybe it was gonna be a part of a different series and then it got canceled, and so you just kind of accumulate random things and put it out as an anthology and boom, there it is. But like there was, I think, a lot of thought and care went into this ape comic, believe it or not. And I think it's just because they appreciate the apes, and I'm glad to see that DC is leaning into their sillier stuff, because I think they kind of go back and forth where sometimes DC Comics is really really serious and they don't want to have all the weird like goofy stuff because it's just like Batman, everything is like Batman and dark and gritty. And I think DC works really well when they just lean into
fun.
Yeah, exactly. Just have fun with it. I mean, if you
ape, how serious could it be?
If you can't have fun with Detective Chimp, who's a chimpanzee who's basically Sherlock Holmes, like, come on, that's great. Yeah, so this surprisingly was actually one of my favorite comics this week. I did not think that would be the case. I like 100% was just like, oh, apes, I'll take a look at that.
Yeah.
And actually really ended up really liking it.
Hey,
all right, Ultimate X-Men. So we didn't do a stream the week that issue 1 came out. So this is a second printing, and so I figured this is a good opportunity to talk about it. This, I mean, by now I'm sure that everybody has already read it and kind of formed an opinion of it. I'm just kind of fascinated by this comic. It's written and drawn by Peach Momoko.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, so everybody. One thing that's nice about Peach Momoko is she has a very distinct style, and as you can see, it's very Japanese manga influenced, and she's bringing that directly to this comic. Like she's not even
just
like
doing her thing.
She's just doing her thing.
Peaching it up.
Yeah, exactly. Like she's not even trying to do like her art style, but Americanized. Like it's just like they're at school and it's drawn like a Japanese or a Korean school, where they're all in uniforms and stuff. And it's really good. It's weird. I think. I mean, like even that. I mean, I believe this. I have to reread it. I'm sorry, but this story actually does take place, I think, in Korea. So that's why she just goes all in on that. But unlike the other Ultimate comics, which I've been less than enthusiastic about, I think is what you could say.
Okay.
Like
you're more than enthusiastic about this one.
No, I think I'm just
no?
I think I'm just like regular. Well, I guess it wouldn't be enthusiasm. I'm just like satisfied with
satisfied.
this.
You're happy that it came out
so
well.
Well, the way I would describe this is like it's a really really good single issue story. It's Peach Momoko just telling a Peach Momoko comic story. Like it's more like horror, like a vibe of horror vibe. Where I mean, which the X-Men have always kind of worked in that genre, because it's like you can take the teenager suddenly developing superpowers and it getting weird, and mutants they run the gamut of sometimes they have like super cool flashy superpowers, like just being super strong, and then other times they have weird and creepy powers where like their skin melts off, and so there's always been like an aspect of like creepiness to mutants in the Marvel universe. And so that works really well in the context of a Peach Momoko kind of Japanese manga horror story, where like this kid that's like dead is talking to her, and you don't know Is he a ghost? Is it like a mutant power thing? But what's weird about it is it doesn't feel like that's some like cool imagery right there.
Yeah.
But what's weird about this is it doesn't
morning.
feel connected to the other Ultimate books in any way
at all.
At all.
It stands
it
alone.
feels like it doesn't even need to be an Ultimate
Like they didn't
comic.
even try to do it.
Right, which I'm a little surprised by, and that's why I'm not disappointed by that, because as previously established, I'm not super into the current Ultimate books.
Okay.
But I am just kind of confused by it, because like if you're launching this Ultimate Comics line, I would assume like the whole point of it would have some unity between all of the books.
Yeah,
so
an overarching storyline or
so
arc or something.
yeah, and well, or even just the style. So the people that people that are all in on Ultimate Spider-Man by Jonathan Hickman, or Ultimate Black Panther by I can't remember the writer's name at the moment. But like those two books feel like they go hand in hand stylistically, whereas this feels so far removed from them. And I don't know if you really liked the Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Black Panther, I don't know if you would be into this Ultimate X-Men book.
because it's so different.
Because it's so different and kind of weird. But like it's definitely more of the type of comics that I prefer. So I enjoyed reading this a lot. But I'm also kind of struck. This is a nice splash page here, where this is the character of Armor, who's a relatively new character. She's not one of the classic original X-Men. Relatively new, I say, but she was created in like 2002-ish. So, you know, I know, right? I mean, she was created 20 years ago.
Ow, let's not talk about it.
Okay, we don't have to talk about that. But she feels very appropriate to the story, so it works really well with like Peach Momoko's style in the story she's telling. But like I said, I'm reading this and I'm just like, where is this gonna go? Because it's like a pretty solid self-contained story, which is the total opposite of what Hickman was doing with his Ultimate Spider-Man book, where it's just like teasing of like it's gonna eventually go into this big grand thing,
another storyline.
Yeah. Whereas the Ultimate X-Men book went in the complete opposite direction, where it was just like a small story, completely self-contained. I kind of really liked it. I don't know if I'm gonna like go all in on it, because I'm not interested. It is different, and I appreciate it for that like a lot. So I'm gonna keep my eye on it. We'll see how the next few issues go. Like if it's gonna maintain its like individual voice, or if it's gonna or will it get more integrated into the Ultimate U? Admittedly I'm kind of curious about it, and I don't know if that was necessarily their intention, but I'm looking at it more from like a technical thing, or like as a creator, where I'm like what are the creative choices made here? Like why are they doing it like this? So
completely art styles.
Together. Exactly.
Yeah, maybe they won't connect.
And you know what? Maybe that could be the case, where it's like Peach Momoko just wanted to do like more X-Men, and they're like, we have to find a reason to have her do. Sure, she can just put the Ultimate label on it,
right?
And it'll just be. It's basically just her doing X-Men manga, but we'll put the Ultimate logo on it to make it seem like it's like tied and important, as opposed to just being a Peach Momoko X-Men comic, which. I don't know. That's a whole different conversation, because I feel like if Marvel just called it X-Men manga and put it out in like digest size, like kids would go nuts for it.
Sounds good to me.
I know, right? All right, so we got one more book to talk about. We got a few minutes. We're gonna come to the end here. I always ask a coworker to pick out a book. And as usual, I asked Celeste.
Because Celeste is here.
She's usually the only one that's here and also near me whenever I'm like scrambling to find a book. But it was very convenient that she picked out a book that I was interested in too, so I don't have to complain.
Great, actually.
This is called Man's Best, and the elevator pitch for it is that it's Homeward Bound in space, which is like, okay, that's enough to get me interested.
Sign me up.
It's very difficult to talk about this comic without constantly referring to one of my other favorite comics of all time, which is called We Three by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely, which was also Homeward Bound
in space,
but not in space. Their book called We Three was like Homeward Bound with RoboCop. And it's basically the greatest comic ever made. It's about three pet animals who get essentially kidnapped and used in research for like a cybernetics company that turns them into war machines.
Oh, okay.
And then they escape and they just try to go home.
No.
But like the dog is like a tank.
Wow.
And the cat is like ninja, like it like shoots its claws, and a bunny is the other one, and it's actually legitimately one of the greatest comics ever made.
Huh.
And I only say that because there's a lot of like
The vibe.
thematic crossover
The
here.
vibe is similar.
And so yes, but like tonally there's a difference, which I'm glad to say. Artistically there's a big difference. So this is drawn by Jesse Lonergan, sorry. And very, very different style from Frank Quitely, who's like got a hyper detailed style, whereas this is a little bit looser, more almost animation kind of like. Yeah, it's very stylized.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So where, like I said, We Three is like Homeward Bound meets RoboCop. This actually, I think it would be a better way to describe it is it's Homeward Bound meets Star Trek, which I think that's something that you might appreciate, Dan.
Sign
I know
me
you
up.
like Star Trek
Yep.
because it's basically so the three animals. There's 2 dogs and a cat, and they're the emotional support animals of one of the crew members on this ship, on a Star Trek like ship, where they're searching for another habitable planet where they can like emigrate to, because like the Earth is like basically destroyed for all the reasons that it's destroyed, as it does. So they're like, we need to find a new home. So they're like scouring the galaxy looking for a planet, and she's got her emotional support pets, and she like runs them through these training scenarios in the holodeck. It's very Star Trek, and so they're like training, and then something happens to the ship. This planet appears out of nowhere. They crash onto the planet, and then everybody is gone, and the pets like wake up, and they have to go find their master. It's really nice. It's cute. It's if you like animals, I do like animals. I like talking animals. This has talking animals in it. And it's got a dog, like a French bulldog with a literal rocket on his back that he flies around with. The cat has like this like helmet
Like
that
an
shoots
exosuit,
lasers, like an exosuit. Yeah, so it's pretty great. Honestly, I enjoyed it quite a bit, and that's the other reason I say like maybe We Three is one of my favorite comics because I just love like animals and violence. And so, not violence to animals. I want to be very clear. Animals that can commit violence.
Okay, well, that sounds way better.
Yeah, that's the RoboCop angle to that comic. Like people just getting mercilessly slaughtered.
Right.
But they're people that deserve it because they're mean to animals.
Because they're mean, they're criminals.
So this is a little bit of a different vibe, but it's still really cute. A lot of the like things that they fight are robots, which is appropriate because it's part of the whole there's like futuristic vibe, the Star Trek vibe to it. There's like a mysterious planet with all these robots on it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I recommend it. I would say like if you're interested in that type of book, maybe check it out because I do think I won't be surprised if this goes over really well with a lot of people. I'm not saying it's gonna like sell out tomorrow, but I know it's the type of book where like there's a lot of people that are just
mass appeal.
Mass appeal, exactly. There's a lot of people that are just gonna see this cover and just go, "Oh, that looks interesting," and buy it. And it's a great cover. Like I really can't stress that enough. I mean, you even noticed it immediately.
Yeah,
you were just like, "Oh,
that's really cool."
Yeah, and I know like as soon as like Celeste saw it, I didn't even get a chance to tell her what it was. She goes, "This looks like the greatest thing ever,"
You gotta have it.
And I'm like, "All right." So yeah, definitely check out Man's Best. A really, really good comic. Yeah. That's all we got for today.
That's a lot of books. We did have a lot of books.
There's a lot, and that's not even the stuff I decided to not talk about because we had so many books.
There's just a lot. We're gonna have to end up doing one where we just like show the covers and name. Boom. Yay, we did it. We did.
Yay.
We absolutely did. Oh man, that's a lot of books. Come by the store tomorrow and check them out. If you don't buy them here, you should buy them somewhere. But you should buy them here. So check out all the comics because there's something there for everyone. It's not just superheroes. Sometimes there's cats and dogs in space.
That's right.
And it's really good. And hopefully we see some of you guys in the store tomorrow. Yeah. Say bye, Aaron.
Bye.